Tonight on NewsWatch, defending the NSA, what the president has to say about the secret surveillance program used to monitor Americans. Plus, stepping up aid in Syria, how arming the rebels could affect the civil war. And CBN News heads to Brazil, where children are being sold and traded for sex in broad daylight. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin. Washington mobilized today to help the embattled National Security Agency. As whistleblower Edward Snowden released new evidence of Western spying, the House Intelligence Committee heard testimony about the terrorist attacks prevented by the NSA's surveillance. But as John Waggy explains in tonight's top story, the NSA scandal continues to hurt President Obama both at home and overseas.
Let me start by saying that I would much rather be here today debating this point than trying to explain how we failed to prevent another 9/11.
On Capitol Hill, NSA Director Keith Alexander led a parade of witnesses describing how the National Security Agency's surveillance programs have helped foil at least 50 terrorist plots.
These programs, together with other intelligence, have protected the U.S. and our allies from terrorist threats across the globe.
The agency has been under fire since whistleblower Edward Snowden charged that the NSA was casting a wide surveillance net, big enough to capture conversations of ordinary Americans. As world leaders concluded their G8 meeting in Northern Ireland, Snowden gave the Guardian newspaper more top-secret documents showing how Britain spied on diplomats at a similar meeting 4 years ago and how the U.S. listened into Russian President Putin's conversations. President Obama has been stung by revelations from several scandals, and polls show a drop in his public support, especially among technically savvy young people. In a pre-summit interview with Charlie Rose on PBS, he claimed Americans can have both liberty and protection.
What I've said, and I continue to believe, is that we don't have to sacrifice our freedom in order to achieve security. That's a false choice. That doesn't mean that there are not trade-offs involved in any given program, any given action that we take.
And he tried to assure U.S. citizens that Big Brother isn't hovering.
What I can say unequivocally is that if you are a U.S. person, the NSA cannot listen to your telephone calls, and the NSA cannot target your emails. They cannot and have not, by law and by rule, and unless they, and usually it wouldn't be they, it would be the FBI, go to a court and obtain a warrant.
Both Republicans and Democrats have stepped forward in recent days to defend Washington's national security apparatus. But in the scandal-plagued Capitol, public trust in government is not a plentiful commodity. John Waggy, CBN News.
As John mentioned, the fallout from multiple scandals is hurting the president in the polls. A new CNN poll has his favorability rating at 45%, down from 53% in mid-May. Only 49% believe he's honest, and 53% doubt he can manage the government effectively. We turn to our chief political correspondent, David Brody. David, do Americans trust the president?
Well, I think we're seeing by the poll numbers that trust is quickly eroding. Having said that, Mark, I don't think it's so much about trust at this point. It is still about likability for this president. I mean, look, this has been his MO all along, his method of operation, in that people typically, generally, like this president. They think he's a good father. They see him out there as a guy that's not a flamethrower and someone that's really going to kind of work with both sides, or at least that's the general consensus in the country. And so therefore his likability ratings have been relatively favorable. Now, with these poll numbers that we've seen, it's been a dramatic shift on trust, and so we'll see if the likability factor actually decreases as well. Right now the trust is starting to erode. The likability may be next.
Mr. Obama has been talking a lot about transparency, David. After all the scandals associated with the administration, is it too little too late?
There has been a track record of a lack of transparency within this administration. Whether or not this has been too much damage, we're going to have to see. But there's no doubt this has been the worst damage of all, including the time when he promised hearings on C-SPAN as it relates to health care, and that never happened.
Well, where does the administration go from here?
Well, I think one of the things they need to do is damage control at this point. I mean, I don't think it gets any better for this administration. I think right now they just have to try to figure out a way to put a lid on it. And that's why you saw President Obama doing that 45-minute interview or so with Charlie Rose. I think you're going to start to see him do a lot more of these longer sit-down interviews. Why the longer sit-down format? Because it takes some explaining. This is not a 20-second soundbite story. The White House knows that. And so it's one thing to go out there and campaign and get on the nightly news for a 15-second soundbite, as they say, but that doesn't explain the story. You're really going to have to tell this from beginning to end, and I think that's the venue they're going to do it in.
Are these scandals helping to mobilize Republicans, would you say?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. As a matter of fact, just on this Wednesday of this week, there's going to be a big Audit the IRS rally here where many conservative Tea Party groups, well, not that there are liberal Tea Party groups, but Tea Party groups and evangelical groups and lots of folks coming to D.C. because of the whole big IRS scandal. We've got the NSA scandal as well. So it just goes on. And so there's been a lot of folks right now that are deeply mobilized. And, oh, by the way, memo to the Obama administration, 2014 is on the way. That's the midterm elections. That means that it's the rabid base. They're the ones that show up in 2014. That's a problem for the president and his administration.
All right, David Brody, thanks as always for your insights. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
The military is planning to integrate women into special operations units. Under the new rules, women could start training as Army Rangers by mid-2015 and as Navy SEALs a year later. They would be required to meet the same physical and mental standards as men to qualify for the new roles. The Navy intends to open up its Riverine Force and begin training women next month, but only 4 women have entered the Marine Corps' demanding infantry course at Quantico, Virginia. And all 4 washed out after only a few days. Afghanistan is now in charge of its own security. U.S. and coalition forces formally handed over responsibility this morning. This means U.S. troops will be stepping off the front lines and instead offering assistance only when it's requested by Afghan leaders.
Yes, what we have, we can do the job. We are ready to do the job.
The goal now is to pull all foreign combat troops out of Afghanistan by 2014. Along with today's transition comes another big step. U.S. officials say they will join with the Taliban for peace talks and begin negotiating with Afghan officials. And those talks could come as soon as Thursday. Nearly 2,000 people have been killed in Iraq since the start of April. This recent surge in violence is renewing fears of a civil war in the country. 2 suicide bombers killed 29 worshipers today in a Shiite mosque in Baghdad. At least 55 others were wounded. No group has yet to claim responsibility, but similar attacks have been carried out on Shiites by al-Qaeda. Besides the recent spike in violence, Iraq has also seen a rise in sectarian and political tensions. President Obama has been trying to convince European allies that it's a good idea to send weapons to the rebels in Syria. But it's been a tough sell, especially when it comes to Russia. Leaders of the top 8 industrial countries concluded a gathering today in Northern Ireland. During the G8 summit, the issue of the Syrian civil war was front and center. Gary Lane reports.
A chilly mood when President Obama and Russian President Putin gathered for bilateral talks during the G8 summit. The 2 men are on opposite sides in the Syria conflict. Russia's Putin supports Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and doesn't believe he should step aside. On the opposite side is President Obama, who decided last week to send small arms to rebel forces fighting to overthrow the Syrian president.
What developed over several months was high confidence that the Assad regime had used chemical weapons. And I had been very clear that if we saw the use of chemical weapons taking place by the regime inside of Syria, that would change my calculus, and it has.
But Putin believes the evidence is questionable. He opposes U.S. intervention in Syria, and he said the Russian and U.S. positions, quote, do not coincide, but all of us have the intention to stop the violence in Syria. But while Obama and Putin agree to disagree on Syria, both support attempts to bring the 2 sides in Syria's 26-month civil war to peace negotiations to end the conflict. Arranging that is proving difficult. The rebels want Assad to step aside before talks begin. Assad and Russia refuse. Other members of the G8 were critical of Putin for supporting the Syrian dictator. One British official described the summit as a clarifying moment in differences over Syria. Putin was criticized for sending Russian arms to the Assad regime, but he responded saying the shipments were to the legitimate government of Syria, legal under international law. G8 summit host British Prime Minister David Cameron tried to emphasize areas of agreement.
It is no secret that President Putin and I have had our disagreements. We share some fundamental aims: to end the conflict, to stop Syria breaking apart.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
The leaders of the G8 participants, including the U.S. and Russia, said today they are united in wanting a negotiated and peaceful end to the Syrian civil war. Coming up, an exclusive interview with former Florida governor and possible presidential candidate Jeb Bush.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
If you have Medicare and have a chronic breathing condition, you can take your medication using an inhaler. Or this, a portable nebulizer from Med4Home. Independent studies have shown a nebulizer may be more effective and easier to use than just an inhaler. Impressive. It's like getting hospital-quality treatment at home. So call Med4Home today to find out more. Med4Home is a specialty pharmacy that's here to help you however they can. They'll deal with your doctor, the paperwork, even ship for free. And their pharmacists and respiratory therapists are available 24/7. What's more, your nebulizer and medications may even be covered by your Part B benefits. For a better treatment at a much better price, call Med4Home now to learn how a portable nebulizer can help you start breathing better today. For more information, call 1-800-210-5821.
A bill banning almost all abortions after 20 weeks is expected to pass the Republican-controlled House, but it has no chance of becoming a law anytime soon. The Democratic-led Senate says it plans to ignore the bill, and the White House has already issued a veto threat. Still, the legislation sets the stage for a future challenge to the 1973 Supreme Court decision that created a woman's right to abortions up to about 24 weeks. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush says he hasn't decided if he'll run for president in 2016. But if he does, he tells CBN News he'll run on his record. Bush and other potential contenders spoke at the Faith and Freedom Coalition's Road to Majority meeting this weekend in Washington. David Brody sat down with him for this exclusive interview.
It had the look of a presidential campaign rally and provided a conservative audience for some politicians to test the waters and their message.
There's a war on Christianity, not just from the liberal elites here at home, but worldwide.
If we are silent about the issues of our time, then who will speak?
But a lot of eyes and ears are waiting for Jeb Bush, a potential frontrunner with a familiar last name and a pragmatic reputation who wants to focus on solutions, not party squabbles.
We could focus on all of our disparate parts, all the points of disagreement that conservatives have, and never win again.
After the 2012 defeat, the Republican National Committee concluded the party needed to come across as more inclusive.
Certainly, social conservatives are a huge part of a winning coalition. which means that we have to change our language to be inclusive, but not abandon principle.
But those are fighting words to some of the conservative base who believe the word inclusive translates into squishy or moderate, definitely not principled. Yet in our interview, Bush says he is principled on traditional marriage, despite seeing the culture become more sympathetic to gay Americans.
I think we can be respectful, we can be compassionate, we can talk about this in non-judgmental terms, but ultimately for our country's success, traditional families are what are going to end up leading our renewal.
Bush grew up Episcopalian, but converted to Catholicism when he married his wife. He says his faith really convicts him in one specific area.
It informs me about the questions of the dignity of life more than anything else. I think life is precious from beginning to end.
There's no doubt a Bush presidential campaign would tout a list of conservative credentials, but some questions linger, such as, will his support for comprehensive immigration reform hurt him?
We should deal with the millions of people that are here illegally to give them a path to legal status.
And will the family name contribute to a reputation as a mainstream Republican establishment figure? That could hurt him in the GOP primaries if he runs. What do you say to those critics?
If I decide to run for office again, it will be based on what I believe, and it'll be based on my record. And that record was one of solving problems completely from a conservative perspective. I cut taxes every year. I shrunk the size of government. I acted on my core beliefs on social issues as governor. You know, I will be able to, I think, manage my way through all the chirpers out there.
And those chirpers will no doubt get louder if Bush decides to run, something he will really start thinking about next year.
Thank you all very much.
David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Up next, the battle to beat child sex trafficking in Brazil.
Remember the happy days when he said everyone gets health insurance. But now, Congress says 7 million Americans will lose their health insurance, and your insurance rates could increase by 200%. Some health plans even get hit with a 40% tax and over $700 billion in Medicare cuts. So now we're really sad. But you can be happy again by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller, and over 500,000 Americans have gotten a copy. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. You can get your copy at Obamacare911.com. It gives you the tips, strategies, and loopholes you need to know. Get your copy of the Obamacare Survival Guide at stores everywhere for $19.95, or get the internet-only offer of just $4.95 and save $15. Go to Obamacare911.com to claim your copy now.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Some of the largest protests in 20 years are breaking out across Brazil. Around 100,000 people are taking to the streets, frustrated by poor transportation, health services, education, and taxes. The majority of demonstrations are peaceful, but some violent clashes are breaking out between protesters and police in several cities. The unrest is raising security concerns as Brazil prepares to host the World Cup next year. Brazil will also be hosting the 2016 Summer Olympics. Countries that host the games look forward to the money and the tourists they bring, but there's a tragic side too, the sexual exploitation of children. Heather Sells has tonight's Focus Report.
In recent years, growing numbers of tourists have flocked to northeastern Brazil. Here, they take advantage of the region's beautiful beaches, its colonial architecture, and tragically, its children.
It's very easy to buy a girl. It's like buying chocolate.
CBN News traveled to northeast Brazil for a closer look at the area's child sex trafficking epidemic. Youth counselor Carlos da Bomba describes it as out of control. Taxi drivers, hotel workers, and drug dealers form an underground network connecting supply and demand. And every week, da Bomba's agency receives 5 to 6 new victims in need of help. After our interview, we walked to the beach across from our hotel, and da Bomba noticed children for sale right in front of us. Our translator approached a young boy working as a transvestite. He agreed to tell us how the system works.
They come in the car, they ask how much it is. I tell them, and they say if they want me, and if they want me, they take me.
Leah uses the $25 to $50 per trick to buy clothes and food for himself and his mom. He told us he started at age 14. His life of pain was clear.
I don't like it. I hate it. I just do it because I need it.
Brazil may soon overtake Thailand as the #1 country in trafficked children. The United Nations estimates that more than 250,000 are sexually exploited here. Much of it happens in the Northeast region, where child sex tourists arrive from Europe and the U.S.
We see kids start at age 12, 13. It's a way for them to have an income, to receive money easily.
And as if the problem of child sex trafficking wasn't bad enough, the worst may be yet to come. Many here fear the World Cup games, to be held in the stadium being built behind me, will bring a flood of tourists eager not just for sports, but for children.
We are trying to find a way to avoid this.
Egivaldo Tavares works in child services in the metro area of Recife. His research suggests kids here are in danger.
What we see before and after the World Cup is trauma in the communities.
Most who work with youth here believe more tourism means more child exploitation. So public officials and nonprofits are teaming up to raise awareness and try to prevent a potential region-wide disaster.
The social workers are very concerned about it, so they are working in prevention now with educational materials in the city and also giving workshops in the schools.
Many in this region also recognize that a long-term strategy is essential to wipe out a tragedy that's deeply embedded in the culture. Poor children here typically grow up in small, crowded homes where they see sexuality that should be private and often face abuse themselves.
They start early to see sex in a distorted way, so it's easier to start in this kind of life.
Drug dealers also take advantage of kids addicted to crack and other illegal substances. It's also common for desperately poor parents to encourage their children to sell themselves.
The moms, sometimes they put their children in this situation because they need help.
In the case of Sophia, a 15-year-old we met, her parents simply looked the other way. Sophia says she stopped because she wants a better life.
I realized it's not good. You can get pregnant and be unable to go on with your studies and get a good job.
The U.S.-based ministry Compassion International is in the sex trafficking fight for the long haul. Compassion uses child sponsorships to fund ministry centers across the country.
We are not only providing a place for them to come to avoid the streets, but we are concerned about giving them an education in a holistic way so they can have a different opportunity than their parents.
Compassion partners with local churches to take care of children's physical needs, and it emphasizes academics, including a special curriculum that targets sexual abuse. Compassion's approach also emphasizes decision-making for a lifetime. It's a tough concept for so many children whose families desperately need help now. But prevention via one-child sponsorships may be the most effective strategy. In a recent survey, economists rated it #1 in the long-term fight against poverty.
I believe the best way to combat exploitation is the prevention we're doing in partnership with Compassion.
And for that reason, Tavares has become a regular at this project, building relationships with kids in the hopes of helping them to realize their dreams. For these children, it's not too late. And it may not be too late for Leah. After our interview, we prayed for him and for his dreams.
I would like to get married with someone I'm in love with and quit doing what I do.
Leah told us he'd like to become a nurse. A true miracle, perhaps, that one child in so much pain would dream of helping others. Reporting in Recife, Brazil, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Up next, winning hearts for the Lord in the Philippines. CBN's new partnership that's climbing the Nielsen rating report.
Your dryer runs forever, and your clothes still come out damp? Now you can speed up your dryer by up to 15 minutes. Introducing the Lint Lizard. It's like a magic wand that cleans deep into any dryer. The flexible Lint Lizard attaches right to any vacuum hose. Look how much lint we got out of this dryer. All this lint that escapes past your lint screen. Yuck! A clogged dryer works harder. All that lint can even burn out your motor. Or worse, it can start a dangerous vent fire. It's a full 40 inches long and cleans deep into your vent system, grabbing all the packed-in lint that's choking your dryer. After a quick cleaning with the Lint Lizard, your dryer vent is clear, making it work less and run more efficiently. Old-fashioned lint brushes pull out some lint, and the lint gets everywhere. The Lint Lizard cleans deeper and sends the lint right into your vac bag. Vacuuming between machines and under appliances is a snap. Take it outdoors to vac your outside vent. So before you spend a fortune on costly repairs, order your Lint Lizard for just $10.99. Call right now and you can double your order. And that's not all. We'll also include the Dust Lizard. It attaches to any vac and adjusts to any position. The Dust Lizard goes where no other attachment can. Clean delicate electronics, tedious air vents, tiny tile crevices, crumbs from corners, dirt from slider tracks, places you could never vacuum before, even expensive sculptures and intricate chandeliers. Plus, the Lint Lizard comes with a money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, return them and keep the Dust Lizard. You get it all, 2 Lint Lizards and the Dust Lizard for $10.99. Call now and find out about free shipping.
Call 1-800-373-2150 and get your Lint Lizard. But call now and you can get a special offer on a second Lint Lizard and the Dust Lizard with your order. So call 1-800-373-2150 and find out about free shipping. That's 1-800-373-2150. Call now.
Welcome back. CBN's Superbook aired nationwide in the Philippines this month. An estimated 1.2 million people watched the episode in the beginning, and it was rated as one of the top programs of the day according to a Nielsen rating report. The episode aired on GMA, a major television network that broadcasts throughout the Philippines. Thousands of viewers responded by texting and posting comments to the Superbook Facebook website, and there were more than 1,800 salvations. Wow, that's what it's all about. Great to hear. And that's all for this edition of NewsWatch. Remember, you can email us your comments and questions at newswatch@cbn.com. Love to hear from you. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.